This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. This is Saad here in the studio in London, and I'm expecting my two colleagues to join me now. Are you there, Gregory?
Hello.
Welcome to the show, Gregory. Please do tell us where you are and how is the weather where you are?
It's getting very cold in Brussels.
Very cold in Brussels, yes. Here in London, it is, yes, it is cold actually. I'm always wearing my coat, so I don't feel too cold. How about our other colleague, Mena? Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to the show. How are you? Where are you? And how's the weather?
It's in the heartland, and the weather is chilly as well.
Chilly.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So welcome to the show. Dear
Yes.
listeners, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is the ungrateful species. I'll say it again, the ungrateful species. And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, UK number is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. As usual, I'll begin with what is the Grail message? The Grail message in the light of truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men. and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you again, the topic we are discussing tonight is the ungrateful species. And some people might be wondering what this means and is there some negative implication here. And so I just want to say we have used this expression, which we'll of course be going into later tonight, tonight's show. And it's not meant to be judgmental or condemning anyone. It's simply we want to look at this, what this ungrateful species is, and what is it, and what's happening with it, and what we are. So we'll go into that tonight. So if you have any questions or any comments, please do contact us on this UK number, which is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 313 66. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Now, Gregory, I want to sort of look at this title, the ungrateful species. And I think I would like to look at the word species first, because that is a plural, meaning there are many species. So let's look at what are these species, Gregory. Yes, what are these species? Are we talking about human beings, animals? What are these species?
The word species, or the expression species, refers to the categories that we have in creation, and starting from that which is familiar to us. We have the world of matter, and above that is the animal, the world of the animistic. Above that is the spiritual. Above the spiritual is the primordial spiritual, and thereafter that which has always been there, the divine sphere, or one may refer to as divine species. So the expression species is only a sort of categorization of, say, creation itself, to sort of plug or to compartmentalize different objects or different beings or different things into specific areas.
Thank you for that.
So
sorry, carry on.
It's a generalization, basically, but you can have subspecies. If you're right here on Earth, you also have the plant species, the animal species, and one can go deeper and deeper into, so you can see sort of putting them in different categories. So that is how the plant species is different from the animal species, because the plant species, they tend to manufacture their own food. And so there are many ways of putting them into this category, not the categories with structures, and the sort of structures that can be formed in a particular category. That is how this species, or as what one is referring to as species.
Thank you for that, Gregory. And what I noticed you said in what you've been saying there is that there's, let's say, living species, and also, well, I'm referring to them as maybe, you also mentioned matter, which I would say is maybe not living species. So species can include both living and non-living. Am I correct there?
Of course, you are correct.
Okay.
what I've been discussing is looking at the different structures, the different category. Before one can talk about categories, you start talking of the species. The species is that place where you pick the objects that you want to use in building structures. So if you look at very carefully here on Earth, where you have the plant species, the sort of structures you have in the plant species is different from the sort of structures you have in the animal species and all others. One cannot say that we have the species of the stones. No, those ones will be subspecies. But basically, you look at, in quotes, those that are living, and those which are not living, in quotes, may be referred to as objects, as containers or for covering. Well, those ones are, one doesn't need to go into that one yet. The best is to look at for those that, in quotes, are biologically living and basically consider plant species or animal species or some others, say here in the world of matter.
And does these species also include visible and invisible species? I mean, are there species which are invisible? The visible we know, like you say, plants, animals, us human beings. Other species which are invisible.
When it is said visible, that means that one which is visible to the physical eye. One will say yes. Of course, there are other species not visible to the physical eyes, whose range of vibration is beyond that of the physical eye. So, but again, they can be classified as a species which which can be put in a completely different category. Like we said, there are subcategories, but as a starter, one intends to focus on that which is visible to the personality, to the human being, and say to the animal, because one can see the plants, one can see the animals. So let us start from what we think we know and then build it up from there.
Thank you again, Gregory, for clarifying that. I'm just thinking maybe I will go into because the title is The Ungrateful Species. So just want to check first, is it more than one species that is ungrateful? Or is there more than one species that we are referring to as ungrateful? Let's go with that first.
When the topic or the title, ungrateful species, the first thing that may strike the personality is, what does one mean by ungrateful? One cannot turn to the plants and say plants are ungrateful species. Neither can one go to the animals that we know and say that they are ungrateful species. So to differentiate that expression and point to what is really meant, it is those that have the intrinsic free will. Those are the ones that is being referred to, and that is primarily man. It is man that has the free will, and therefore one has to examine that expression within the context of man's free will.
Again, thank you for bringing that in. And I just wanted to say, all these species, we always say they have come through nature, that we've been created through nature. Everything's been created through nature, the laws of nature. And so the obvious question is, if there's one species, which we are referring to here, the human being, which is the ungrateful species, because of the presence of free will that is present in the human beings, does that mean that has come through nature, this ungratefulness? Because others are grateful. You said plants are grateful. Well, maybe they don't express themselves like that, but they're always beautiful. You look at plants. And then animals, you can see the joy in them, always grateful. With the human beings, maybe we can't say every human being is ungrateful, but in general, maybe that is the case. So how is that something natural that has happened, that somehow we've developed through being ungrateful?
Well, again, if one takes the expression and examines it intuitively, one will discover that it is the word gratitude which is absent within the workings or within the activities or the works of the human species that is referred to here. How is that gratitude expressed, if at all it is expressed? That is or the title or the topic of the discussion when the phrase ungrateful species is mentioned.
Thank you again, Gregory.
Yeah,
Go on, Mena.
Greg, so, yeah, thanks for clarifying the topic, because I did have, some difficulties understanding what it was going to be, what it's going to mean, or what it's going to capture. So, is it right now because, I'm looking at, the plants and the animals which you just mentioned, and then looking at the structure of creation, you have the nature sphere, which is when you're looking at the structure of creation, you have the nature's sphere, and in that sphere you have the conscious and the unconscious beings. The ones that were conscious came into full activity, while the unconscious actually came as species to work or to develop a matter. I don't know if you understand what I mean, because they are the ones that actually came out to develop themselves in the world of matter, and in the process of doing so, did not achieve perfection, well, in terms of the ability to fully develop themselves in one go. They had to develop themselves over time, linear. So I'm beginning to look at even the spiritual species, which perhaps were not conscious of their existence in their realm, but have to come to cross matter or subsequent creation or matter. Sorry, they came to the world of matter to develop themselves. In developing themselves, they would have to start from, neophytes, not fully conscious of their abilities. I mean, they will actually have to develop over time to that stage where they could say, yeah, they become, self-conscious and, conscious and self-conscious. I don't know how is it. Would you want to say that, at certain point they became ungrateful, or you're taking into consideration the full development process of these species as they have come into existence?
Again, thanks your for the contribution, but there seems to be some confusion somewhere.
Okay.
To differentiate between the animistic species and the spiritual species, which spiritual species is higher, on a higher platform, it must be stressed that for the human spirit, or for the spiritual, that is unconscious at their level, the possibility to become conscious or to be conscious of its environment and subsequently to become self-conscious, that possibility is granted with the free will. Therefore, the free will is a gift granted to the human spirit or to the spirit germ, a gift that it must use in accordance with the will of the Creator that granted this possibility. Therefore, when it sinks down into the world of matter, where movement is not as swift as it is in the realm from which it started, again, another possibility has been granted for it to sink to the level where it can gradually experience and become conscious. The process of becoming conscious entails that the realm to which it sinks must have been prepared by the helpers, the administrators. That preparation for it to receive the unconscious spirit germ is another gift. As the spirit germ sinks, it is given or it is enveloped by some garment to enable it to experience in the appropriate environment accordingly. These are gifts. And as this human spirit now comes to the world of matter, albeit the earthly environment, it is given further gifts. In the ethereal sphere, it is also enveloped. That is a gift. And then it finds the parents who take the preparation to provide the final gift for it to experience. That gift is that of the physical body. So, considering the distance from whence it has set off, it has had several gifts. Whilst here on earth, the gift of the intellect is also there, and also the gift of the back brain. These are manifold, multiple gifts granted to the human spirit to experience, such that it can become conscious, and finally, if it uses aright what it has been granted, to become self-conscious. One should not forget that the free will is also a gift, to be able to make selections such that is able to experience. So, with that as the background, where the spirit to act in accordance with what has been granted to it so as to mature, then it will have matured in the sense that these gifts were granted. For one must understand, when a farmer goes to the farm and plants one grain of wheat, it is not one grain that the farmer should be reaping at the end of a cycle. Should that happen, then it means there was no germination, or there was no progress. There was no maturity of that grain. If, however, the farmer comes at the end of the season and there are multiple grains, then it is said that the grain has grown and has matured and has produced multiple grains. In the same sense, when you have that the human unconscious spirit germ sinking down to this earth with all the gifts we had mentioned, it is expected to mature accordingly.
Thanks again, Gregory, for your answer there.
Yeah.
Mena, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. What I'm saying, the picture you're painting, or what I add, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the human spirits have been released from the unconscious spiritual realm to come and experience in the world of matter, and in coming down was also given a number of gifts in which to develop himself, and also with the gift of the free will. Um, it's my understanding that you are now making making us sense that the human spirit may have exhausted the time in which to develop his abilities. Is that correct? Or I'm not getting the right picture?
One hasn't mentioned that the human spirit has exhausted the time. One only painted a picture to some extent from which we can now build up. For time is still available But the topic for discussion is the ungrateful species. One has not gone to the extent to discuss where the ingratitude started. One has only painted a picture to some extent, by which we will all keep reflecting on the first part before one paints the picture of the other part.
Thank you, Gregory. I just
Yeah,
want to, before you come in, Mina,
you
just
did
want,
that.
Mina,
Yeah,
just
you
give me
did
a
say
break.
that you wanted to separate the topic, the ungrateful species, to look at the gratitude in itself. That the basic, the fundamental issue in that topic, or a fundamental question, is the expression gratitude. Has man been able to show gratitude? Is that correct?
Well, because you have now brought up this, one may then continue.
Okay.
When you have the scenario of many receiving a gift, let us take a very simple one. You are on your way on a journey, and someone approaches you saying, I'm very hungry. Can you give me some money? And you granted, you have maybe £1 or €1, and you granted that person. And it could be that, okay, two people approached you. One took the funds granted to procure some food. The other took the fund granted and went and bought drugs like cocaine. At the time you gave them this fund, each one said thank you and went their way. Then you have to ask yourself, of the two of them, the one that has procured food to strengthen the body, or the one that had procured drugs to destroy the body, which one has shown proper gratitude? These are the questions each person must ask themselves. With that in mind, one may now continue that when gratitude is mentioned, gratitude is mentioned in the sense that it brings joy, not only joy on joy by the person who has received. For whoever has received has the duty to make proper use of what he or she has received and then pass it on for others to be able also to receive. For if it is not so, that tends to violate the laws through which everything here in creation has come into existence. Just as the plants will receive the carbon dioxide which we have given out, they themselves will make use of that carbon dioxide to prepare food, and in turn prepare the fruits, in which in doing that we in turn take back the fruits and therefore complete the cycle. In such a case, it grants one the possibility of further maturing, That is real gratitude. For whoever has received should make use of it and pass it on to others such that they themselves will benefit and also be joyful. In that particular scenario, the joy continues. Whereas in the case of ungratefulness or ingratitude, what then happens is that cycle, which cycles that springs from the law of reciprocity, in which true gratitude rests, that cycle is stopped. Instead of an upbuilding in accordance with the laws, it is destruction. Such destruction should not be termed as gratitude. Such destruction, which destruction has come up because the gifts which have been granted man, if one looks at the preparation right from the spiritual sphere to the world of matter, and all the gifts which have been granted the human spirit for maturing, these gifts lie unused. These gifts lie, as if they do not matter. All man has to say is a simple thank you, but deep within, it is not meant. So the question one will ask oneself, these gifts were granted such that the maturity that the human spirit longs for is realized. If it makes use of it in accordance with the will, then is able to return back to its origin, the paradise of man, as a self-conscious spirit germ, as a self-conscious spirit. If, however, that's not the case, it will return back as an unconscious spirit germ. It means the time, the efforts, and the gifts were wasted. Will such a waste be gratitude? For those who have not fulfilled that condition and will be forced to return back to their home in paradise as unconscious spirit gems, that is the greatest ingratitude, which ingratitude is a manifestation of either indolence or, whilst here in the world of matter, or particularly here on earth, it has allowed its intellect to dominate, while the spirit, which spirit itself should be alive, was asleep.
Thank you, Gregory, for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrushing. And if you're interested, listeners, to get a copy of the Grail message or want to get some more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is the ungrateful species, which, just to say that this is not being judgmental about or condemning something, it's an expression we are using to highlight a particular species, as Gregory's been talking about, which is, in this case, it is us, the human beings. So this is a discussion about us being ungrateful. And if you want to join us with any questions or comments, the number to contact us here in UK, the UK number, sorry, is 079 444 31366. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 I'll start that again. That's if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And dear listeners, I want to let you know that we are broadcasting on blessradio.co.uk. Also, we are on tunein.com. Search for Bless Radio there. And also, you can go to YouTube. You can listen live on YouTube. Go to on youtube.com. Type in Bless Radio 1, the number 1, and then space live stream. That's Bless Radio, the number 1, space live stream. That's to listen live. If you want to listen to the recording of the show, which should be could be 10 minutes after the show, or it could be the next day, you go to again on YouTube, search for, you can go Bless Radio, and then type in the Grail message or Grail message, and then the topic of the show, which is tonight, the ungrateful species. So you can listen to a recording anytime after the show is finished. Now, go on, Mena.
Yes, okay. So, thank you, Gregory. So, a category of organisms that you want to refer to as, ungrateful, which could be a subsequent definition or categorization of a group who perhaps did not achieve self-consciousness at the end of their, let me say, journey in the world of matter. Now, what I'm looking at is that is it not good for us, it's not better for us to focus on how we can actually develop ourselves so that we do not fall into that group of being ungrateful? Can you tell us more how we can?
To respond to your question, I will pick out a similar question which reflects on the processes in creation or processes in nature, which, when one reflects calmly, intuitively tells or defines what gratitude is. The question is taken from question and answers in like a blogging which happened a long time ago, a forum. And the question was, among other things, in his message, Abrushin speaks of a great law of creation, that only in giving can there really be right receiving. I should be grateful if I could still have more precise references on just that point, which will guide my thinking to the right course. And the response to that, I'll cut out many other areas. It says, it is no different in coarse physical things. The enjoyable intake of food can only be achieved through digestion, through converting and passing it on for the nourishment of earth and plants. It is absolutely dependent upon it. As it is with physical things, so it is also with spiritual processes. If a spirit wishes to draw, thus to receive, it must pass on transformed what it has received. The transforming or forming before the passing on strengthens and steels the spirit, which in its strengthening becomes capable of receiving ever more and still more valuable things after it has made room for this through the passing on, be it by words or writing or in some other action. Only after the passing on is the spirit lightened. Otherwise, it will be weighed down, would constantly be made uneasy or restless, and might finally even be completely overcome. Only through giving, that is, through passing on, can the spirit in turn receive anew. I only mention these things which can be easily observed and understood in order to indicate thereby what is great and in constant activity. All processes in creation are subject to this law. In its outworking, it naturally manifests always in a different forming, according to the plane and the species concerned. This law can also be differently described and illumined from another angle by saying, whoever receives must pass on. Otherwise, congestions and disturbances which are harmful and can become destructive will ensue because it is against the automatic operating laws of creation. And there is no creature who does not receive. I read this out just to give a sort of precise picture of the operations. Gratitude only means, or real gratitude, not imagined gratitude, only means that what has been granted to you, what you yourself have received. For one to receive, you should know there are other forces which one may not see. There are other beings, seen or unseen, that are working to ensure that provision is made for man to receive. Just as it has received the free will, it has received the physical body before it even incarnated. The proper gratitude is to make use of what has been received in such a way that is of benefit to all. It's of benefit such that it is able to return to its origin matured. Else, it is ingratitude. Or one may reframe it as you have a species, that is the human species, that is striving to become conscious, not grateful for the opportunities and the grace that has been granted to it to become mature and become also a useful fruit in creation or a personality of value. Only when it strives along that process can it be said that it is grateful. Otherwise, it is ungrateful, and it must be said loud and clear as a warning so as not to fall when the time comes when the world of matter within the scheme of things must go back to its primeval state That means the structures which had been built in the world of matter will have to fall apart and return to their primeval state. That opportunity will no more be there. So, for those who have not shown any gratitude by making use of the opportunity and moving on, then they will fall into that trap that they will have to return as they had come in, as unconscious spirit gem. That is the danger.
Yeah. Thank you for really clarifying that picture of gratitude. Giving out what you've received. Now I'm looking at the archangel that was sent to help man. Actually, found man in a state where, well, he just said, well, um, let me tempt him, and if he does what is right, I would praise him and support him. But if he doesn't, I laugh at him and condemn him. Yeah, I'm looking at the coming of Lucifer when he was sent to help man. Actually, saw man in a pitiable state, and was it? Could you say that he this question or this concept of gratitude was not seen in man, hence he used that principle he used, and was that the right principle?
In the first instance, the scheme that Lucifer set up, had he himself examined it, whether it is in accordance with the will of him who sent Lucifer to support, had Lucifer considered what he was setting up very carefully, maybe it would have been different. But what counts is to understand that when one is granted an assignment, that assignment must be accomplished with the tools that have been granted. Therefore, whatever scheme that one intends to put in place, those schemes must be in accordance with the already existing laws of creation, which also resonates in love. Of course, it was perceived that the human spirit, in its fledgling nature, was weak. Were the human spirit not weak and needed support, then there would have been no need for support, and therefore there would have been no need for Lucifer to come. But he came, or he volunteered to come to support. When you volunteer to come to do a piece of job, it is not for you to set up scheme to allow many to fall, but to support them with all that you are granted to ensure that those who are weak are to become strong. A simple example is that here we are on earth. We are not very conversant on how to make use of our physical body. and therefore we have one ailment or the other. Consider someone being asked to come and support. If that person is to make hospitals available, like we now have here on Earth, then we can go to the hospitals and receive treatment to ensure the physical body is strong again. If, however, the person or personality who is sent to support does not put such within the earthly sphere, it means therefore all those who are weak will perish. Only those who are strong will go through. Then you must ask yourself, is that in accordance with the will of the Almighty, who is also love? So these are the questions that must continue to assail us, and we should strive to ensure that whatever task we are granted to participate in, it is the love that we use in accomplish this task that counts. For if you try the first time, you do not succeed, you try again. You have to try and try. It's like someone who is learning a language. The first time, you may not do it the way you sense it should be done, but you keep trying and trying. You may succeed at last. Now, if you consider a scenario where at the first failure, that person is thrust out of the system, then such lacks the love, which love granted the opportunity to the unconscious spirit gem, which spirit gem needed to move away from that fast realm to a slower realm in order to mature. For were it matured enough, were it strong enough, there would have been no need to come down to the lower realm in order to gradually to mature. So it is the love that is inherent in the Almighty that granted this opportunity. The love which resonates with the will of the Almighty.
Thank you, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And the topic we're discussing tonight is the ungrateful species. And people might be wondering, what do we mean by that? As in the show earlier, we've been talking about the many different species, but there's only really one, which is the ungrateful one, and that is the human being. So that's what we're referring to with the ungrateful species. And if you want to join in the discussion with any questions or comments, then you can contact us on this UK number, which is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And just to let you know that if you are interested in getting a copy of the Grail message or want to get more information on the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, GRAIL, message, MESSAGE.com. Now, Gregory, we've talked about Lucifer the archangel who came to help man, but instead used temptation. And basically, he appealed to our vanity, and that is what we have the picture story in the Bible of Adam and Eve, with the offering of the apple to Eve as a temptation, and she's eating of the apple from this tree of knowledge, and then getting Adam to join in too. And from that moment, let's say, it is called the fall of man. Man started going astray. So you talked about how Lucifer, let's say, went astray. How could what was it, let's say, the weaknesses in man that led, or when I say man, I mean in general, humanity really, that could lead, to this fall, as it's called. How did that happen? That, as I say, he appealed to our vanity. That's what it is said. He said, "Oh, look here, I can give you this knowledge, and you'll be like a god yourself." And so, what can you tell us? What is meant there in that happening? That that we were somehow tempted to follow what Lucifer offered.
Actually, it's not precisely as you have mentioned it, though there had been quite a reference to what, in quotes, that vanity is. But it should be, in all naturalness, when looked into very carefully, although these stories are allegorical, but when looked in very carefully, whenever you have the scenario where the human spirit does not exert itself enough, a scenario or a situation or a state, which one will refer to as that of indolence. Indolence of the spirit. The spirit is supposed to work hand in hand with the intellect. It means, due to its activity in order to experience, it sends information or passes its impressions from the spirit. It goes to the back brain, which is referred to as the intuitive brain, and then it comes to the frontal brain, and through activity it is realized, see, here on earth, on the world of matter, as you will find in the case of music or in the case of the art. However, the reverse course, that means experiences gathered from the earth, are passed to the frontal brain, which in turn will pass to the back brain, and then back to the spirit. That is a cycle which needs to be completed. If, however, the human spirit is too indolent, then you have that the activity is such that there are no vibrant measures put in place. The activities are dull. That permits then the frontal brain to do as it wishes, because it does not receive strong impressions from the back brain. Whatever that is used vigorously, in all naturalness, grows in strength. That which is not used vigorously decreases in strength. Because man was relying only on the frontal brain as such. It's growed in strength and size because it was that it was using here on Earth in all its activities. And those impressions were not passed to the back brain and to the spirit. The spirit needed the impressions such that it can evaluate it and take that which is of value. It is those things that are of value that it will make use of to return back home as a self-conscious spirit. But when it receives nothing, then it means it lacks that which it needs for its maturity. And therefore it becomes weak. Weak because it hasn't exerted itself to ensure it's able to participate, pass the information to the frontal brain. So it is the indolence of the spirit that has caused or that has precipitated the scenario where the frontal brain takes over and relies only on what it has gathered outside. Such a state leads to a quagmire where it can't move forward and it cannot move backwards. That is the real problem. What then happens in the case of further progress of man on earth through birth? Since you now have an overdeveloped frontal brain, it is then passed on from one generation to another, or from parents to children. So you now have this potentiality of passing on an overdeveloped frontal brain, which is a reality and can be checked if this is the case. So that is where the problem is. What has now been discussed in the case of Adam and Eve is merely allegorical, to just use this as examples. But what has been discussed here is only a minute fraction of it. Many listeners should strive to get a copy of the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message, and dig in very deep into it to receive clarity.
Thank you for that,
All right.
Gregory. Mena, you want to come in?
Yes, Gregory, thanks for expanding on the topic itself. Now, can I ask a question? The question that having Lucifer and woman being more, being fundamental to the development of the intellect, is it not well fair to lay the blame of the possible ingratitude of man, which may eventually happen if we fail to achieve our purpose on earth, to these personalities?
In the first case, it would be absolutely wrong to do that. Why? Because there is the freedom of choice. The freedom of choice ensures you can select that, or you can choose that which seem or which you like, but haven't chosen, you will be subject to the consequences of your choice. So, if a man or whoever decides to ignore his or her intuition, or becomes too lazy and follows the schemes of Lucifer, which schemes have just been described, that only the fittest may survive, without any support for the weak, which in a mundane sense only means that when someone is not fit due to ill health, no support should be granted, but should be shun away. That means the cases of hospitals should be done away with, such that that person will perish with the slightest cold, which, however, should not be the case. If one makes the decisions to follow such, then it is they who have decided or chosen to follow the Lucifer principle. So the choice is for man. One cannot now turn around and say, Lucifer, you made me do it. Because the free will is there. Like has been said, to be or not to be is not the question. How to be, which how to be, has now been explained, has now been well outlined in the work, in the light of truth, the grail message, which work has always been there from the beginning. From the beginning of creation, the laws that govern creation have been well hammered out. But if many continue to ignore it because they are too weak and they want to go to sleep, then it is a choice they themselves have made and cannot turn round to others and say, they made me do it. And when Adam was asked, why did you eat of this apple? What was his excuse? Lord, it is a lady, the woman you yourself gave to me, that tempted me to eat of the apple. So, in that case, he had relinquished his free will. Whatever assails man needs to be examined. Above all, it has been stressed to keep the heart of one's thoughts pure. And by doing that, one will be joyful and be happy. But to keep the heart of one's thought pure only means to be on the alert, to be watchful of the impressions that assail the personality, and to make decisions on selecting the right impressions. And to pray only means to make use of that which has been received, to make use of it for the right realization. Only that is prayer. Only that, in fact, is prayer of gratitude. Else, one may be referred to as being ungrateful, as an ungrateful species.
Thank you again, Gregory.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how I'm looking at how you're trying to absolve, people who well, the, I call them now, the things that are supposed to be held accountable for their actions, and to say, yeah, it should be passed on to man because he had the free will. Now, looking at woman who was supposed to be a helper to man, offered, the fruit, and that, to the best of my knowledge, is the development of the intellect, which is now something you cannot live without. I mean, in the world today, is the man of the intellect that is king. So could you not? I mean, how can we redeem man from this fall if woman is not there to spring back to her purpose of directing man to spiritual goals or spiritual ends?
Each personality have their own challenges because each one is granted the innate abilities to perceive. One is also granted the possibility of having the right intuitions, be it man or woman.
Okay.
That being the case, let each one use that which has been granted to them to build up their character and not look at the other and say, oh, they made me do it. For whenever something has been done which is not in accordance with the will, instead of the personality to examine themselves very carefully, in their indolence, they want to find the fault somewhere else, not looking deep within themselves if they themselves have skipped a step or done that which did not resonate. That has always been the problem. But as soon as each personality examines things aright, by first looking within themselves to ensure nothing has been neglected, then the possibility is there that in constant practice, ways will open up, and many will find it is not as difficult as many make of it. But looking within themselves and making use of that which has been granted to them in the right way, that becomes the proper gratitude. For only when you have done that will other ways open. For each person receives, and like we read out in the passage, whoever receives need to make use of it to bring values and benefits, and then pass it on. Take the case of a musician who receives of the beautiful tones and melodies, who then composes such beautiful music, which many then enjoy. He or she has received, has made use of it, and has passed it on for others, only then will he or she receive more to make use of. For it is like someone who breathes in. Have you ever considered a situation what may happen if you yourself breathe in, hold it, and refuse to breathe out? Do you know what the consequences will be? So these are little examples that one should use, and stop blaming others when the faults which you wish to find in others is so well hammered within yourself.
Thank you, Gregory. I've got a question from a listener now. It's sort of related to what you were saying earlier about the overdevelopment of the intellect. And so this is what he said. How does one deal with the overdevelopment of the intellect today if the frontal brain dominates so much? And I think we'll stop you there because it's got a little bit after that. Let me just read a little bit. Can a balance still be developed in order to let the spirit lead the way? So I'll repeat that.
I got the question. Of course, a balance can be developed, but one should not take these things in such a way as if it is nothing. It took time to get to this particular state where the intellect now dominates. It took a lot of effort, a gradual one, albeit. Also, efforts need to be made. This time, efforts from the spirit itself. Efforts from the spirit itself only means an abundance of intuition. Let it flow through. The next question one may ask, how can one develop his own or her own intuition? Each one must observe himself or herself. Each one must let things come naturally and not force things through. However, one can only make suggestions. The best reference that one can refer to is a lecture which had been given in the Walk in the Light of Truth, the Grail message. In there's written the intuitive perception, and there's another, the inner voice. With this and the simple advice, watch what you eat, such that it does not cloud your perception. For many who eat such poisonous fruits, that will only poison the vibrations of the blood. A simple example would be when one takes such massive alcohol dosages, of course that one will distort the radiations of the blood. Or one takes such massive amount of drugs in one's system, that it also distorts the sort of blood radiations. All these have effects. However, the human spirit deep within must make a decision gradually and take it one step at a time in all calmness. And before long, we reach its goal, here or hereafter.
Thank you, Gregory, for that. Dear listeners, as Gregory mentioned, if you want to get a copy of the Grail message or want to get some more information about the Grail message, you can go to this website www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail grail message message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is the ungrateful species, referring to us human beings. So if you would like to ask any questions or have any comments, you can join in the discussion with contacting us on this UK number, which is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Now, Gregory, I want to look at some earthly things in terms of relationships within humanity or mankind, and looking at one specific one is which is from the Ten Commandments. Actually, in fact, it's the fourth commandment: thou shalt honor father and mother. That's the actual commandment. Thou shalt honor father and mother. So the question is, how should children honor their parents? We're talking about gratitude. We know how the parents can show gratitude to the children, by looking after them, and obviously they enjoy the company and they're very happy. But how can the children, how can the children honor their parents?
In the first case, that commandment is not meant basically for children. It's meant for parents or for the elders, those who have asked to care for spirits in young bodies, to ensure that these spirits that have entered these young bodies are able to learn to use the young bodies in the right form so as to bring them benefit. Parents or carers have the task and duty to ensure they know what their responsibilities are in guiding these spirits in young bodies. So that is what is meant by honor, to honor fatherhood or motherhood. Honor motherhood in the sense that they have taken the responsibilities, or for some who wish to take the responsibilities in the preparation of the bodies which other spirits may now make use of or take possession of when they wish to incarnate and experience using the physical body. To think in the right format and with the right thoughts, to guide that who wish to make use of this particular physical body is a noble task, not only before birth, but after birth, to ensure the bodies and character building continues until they, the spirit in young bodies, are able to make a decision on how they themselves wish to proceed. In return, these young ones look up in gratitude, not only in words, but in the conduct of their character, in trust, knowing fully well or sensing fully well that the parents are doing the utmost, or the carers are doing the utmost to ensure that they themselves experience rightly that which they may need here at that particular age or much later in life. So that sort of honor is a gratitude, not only for or a gratitude to the carers or the parents that have put this in place, but also to the Almighty, who through his laws have made all these things possible, such that the human spirit may experience that which it needs in order to become matured. So one should look at it in a balanced form. Otherwise, it will be that everything has become one-sided.
Thank you. And talking about balance, I want to bring up another question. We've been talking about gratitude, let's say, to the Lord, to the Almighty, in most of our show tonight. Then we talked about here parents and children. Then another thing is, again, human interaction. Let's say in daily life, there are all sort of, let's say, variety of human beings, in quotes, good and bad. And then some you get on with, some you don't get on with, let's say, for whatever reason it is. Should we always show gratitude to people who are, let's say, not grateful? I'm not talking grateful to the Lord, but just to ourselves. Should we always have this, let's say, grateful attitude, no matter who the person we interact with, or we should react, or we should actually show what we, not show gratitude to those who do not, let's say, I'm going to use the word respect, maybe. I'll use that word respect. Should we not show it to those who we do not respect? Because the other way is that you show gratitude to everybody, and you could call that hypocrisy because, I don't actually agree or don't find them grateful, and why should I be grateful to those such people? So yes.
Sorry, may I ask you to repeat the question?
Yes,
because there are so many
so much in it.
different parts I couldn't follow.
Okay, no problem. So basically what I'm saying is interaction between our fellow human beings. Let's say we are a grateful person, and then we interact somebody who's not so grateful, or we don't respect, let's say. And should we be showing gratitude to such a person? Let's start with that one.
Sorry, I think it is wrong to start with that we ourselves are a grateful person. The question is, on what basis are we making that we ourselves are grateful? Grateful, there's always a reference point of gratitude. That reference point or reference scheme are the laws of creation through which everything came into existence. So it is the laws themselves that determine whether one's gratitude are genuine or are hypocritical. When one intends to carry out some activity, consider the case you go to the hospital where one is unwell. Should the doctor now start differentiating. Oh, this person is not it's not grateful. This one is grateful. Therefore, I will not treat this one or not treat that one. That will be laying down a wrong platform. Each person must do the best they can, not because they are wishing or they wish to have a thank you, but knowing fully well that this personality is a human spirit who, like me, had set out from such a realm very far away in order to acquire self-consciousness. And whatever one can do to show examples, one should do. If the person who has received is able to make use of it immediately, that is excellent. For the person today who is unable to understand what real gratitude is, may mature enough tomorrow to now realize what gratitude is, and we then strive along the line to build his or her character to act in such a way that whatever they have received, they're able to make use of it to bring so much to others. If, however, one has stopped along the way because, as at this point, that particular person hasn't matured enough to show real gratitude and say, let me cut off the chain. I don't want to be associated with such a person. Then those experiences that would have been helpful to help the other to mature will now be lacking. That will not be helpful.
Thank you again, Gregory, for that. Go on, Mena.
Yeah, okay. It is a good. It's a gratitude itself. I'm looking at people who, courteously say thank you for what they receive. Do we say not in all cases are these responses true? And then we also have, organizations which are involved in charities. Can we also say that these organizations are not doing it in the best interest of mankind? And a third group go to church each Sunday to express, thanks to what they've received during the week. Would we not say some are genuine? Would these ones be the ones striving towards consciousness?
The question has always been, who amongst men is able to see the motives behind many an activity? The motive behind why one goes to church or to the mosque, or why one does whatever one is doing. It is the motive, the inner motive, that sets the laws that govern creation into motion in such a way that the returns will come here or hereafter. Which motives we do not have the slightest idea. And therefore, we ourselves are never in a position to judge. But the motives stand out clear in creation. And that's what moves the lever. as whether it will be of benefit or not of benefit, of value or not of value. Therefore it is said, vengeance is mine. Vengeance is not of the human spirit. It is the laws which have been woven into creation who return to each personality that which they deserve, which along the way must have woven in creation, or some knots they must have tied. Since many cannot perceive what the motives that lie behind most of these works are, the best they can do is to exert themselves to be of benefit to all. The simple example that was given the biblical text when it was asked, and who is my neighbor? And the example was given. A man was going from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers and was beaten maybe to near death. There was a priest, came, saw this, and went one way. A Levite came, went the other way. These are the people in the highest hierarchy of the church. Then came a common man, a Samaritan, who took care of this one. The Samaritan did not ask whether this man had a good karma or a bad karma. That question was not asked. He simply had to act, and he did his best. When you go along in your activities and find that there's a house on fire, you do not hesitate to ask, how come your house is on fire? You must have been a sinner. You do not hesitate. You act as quickly as you can to save the human souls in that particular house. That is how it should be. And not to walk away and say, oh, this person must have been like this, and that's why this happened to it. Such behavior is Luciferian. That is what Lucifer meant when he says only those who are strong enough. Being strong enough could be strong in character or strong in health. So one should be more intuitive in one's relation with fellow human spirits. And it should never be forgotten that we are all here to experience, to support one another in one way or the other. For, after all, we set out from the same hometown. Which hometown? We set out as unconscious spirit gem. And our aim, our goal, is when we set out, we need to experience. And it's only fair to support one another, to serve together, in order to be able to become conscious. Not only conscious of our environment, but conscious of our innate abilities and applying them to be of benefit and value to others as true gratitude to Him that has granted us these wonderful opportunities. Also to those within the line of activity that has spawned from the paradise of man here to the earth, and also from the earth back to paradise. Those entities, those personalities that are expecting and that are urging us deep within to mature quickly, stretching out their hands through their activities to support us, such that we shall experience, or we are capable of experiencing, true gratitude and pure joy. That being the case, we have received, and we need to assist many others to arrive at the same maturity, or if not better maturity.
Yeah. Yeah, the picture of Adam and Eve, which you said is allegorical, could you not, is it a way you can reverse the eating of the apple? Is there a way man can reverse that order? Although it's allegorical, as you mentioned, what way can man now begin to reverse that order in order to fulfill his task in creation?
When you say to reverse the order,
Yeah.
it is difficult to understand what you mean. The only
Yeah.
thing one may stress is listen to your intuition and never ignore the impressions that you have that you are granted through one's intuition. As long as that one puts that into practice daily, hourly, or at every moment, then gradually that deficit will be reversed. For
Okay. Thank you.
then the human spirit now is able to allow that communication channel to open. And the more you use it, the more skillful you become in opening yourself, allowing the streams of power from on high to reach you.
Thank you,
Good.
Gregory.
Good.
There's something else I want to look at. It's easy to show gratitude when good things happen in your life, but what about bad things or where you suffer? Can you show gratitude then? And if so, why should you show gratitude for that?
Well, it's assuming that when you say good things, those are things of benefit. When it is said bad things, it depends on the level. Suppose it could have been worse. Would one should have preferred that which is worse as a returns of one's former misdeeds? But now you now have a lesser. Say, in a particular scenario, that which would have removed one's head, removes one's finger. Which one would be preferable? Removing one's head or one's finger? So man has to choose. But one thing is clear. Through his or her former activities, the returns will definitely come. As long as he strives vigorously to improve himself through purity of thoughts, then the environment around him, which protects him, will be such that returning blows can easily be deflected, or if they are able to penetrate that environment, they will be severely weakened. So this purity of thought is key and is achieved greatly through silence. Through silence, and also through focusing on that which is noble, in seeking how best to be of use in creation through one's activities within himself and also to all other creatures that have come into existence.
All right. So far, I think it's clear that what we meant by ungrateful species is the human being who, despite the gifts that has been given to him, is not been able to develop them to the best of his abilities, and that we may want to blame Lucifer and woman for being the fall of man, but we are also left with our free will to decide on which is good and bad, and that it is our own duty to weigh which actually whatever assails us, be it from our thoughts or be it from our neighbor. And gratitude in itself must be heartfelt and genuine. I think we've covered a lot of grounds today, and I would like Gregory to give us more insight on how you wish man to progress on his path moving forward.
Just a bit of correction.
Yeah.
When one says placing the faults or the blame on woman, woman is not to be blamed, because each personality has challenges. It is how you handle the challenges that really matter. And like we have stressed again and again and again, it is not me as a person that is advising. In this forum, the idea is to share, to discuss that which could be of benefit. And whatever one has heard, one shouldn't take it for granted, but should continue to endeavor to search deeper and deeper. And that which has been granted to man in this earth life, for now, is the walk in the light of truth, the grail message. So not only should one refer many to examine the walk in the light of truth, but also one should strive to ensure that the warnings and the advice that comes through one's intuition, one's conscience, one should never ignore them. In that case, the possibility is there that you will now build an environment around yourself, an environment which will now serve to protect you. So whatever the returns might have been or should be, as long as they are ignoble in the past, one is completely protected, like has been discussed. And so, even if they penetrate, the power is greatly diminished. But it should never be taken for granted that because that's been discussed and advised, that is the case. First, each person should strive to examine the work and question the work again and again. Only through such an effort and personal experiencing, only through such investigations can one come to trust in the work in the light of truth. As long as the human spirit is not indolent, then the returns will be bountiful.
Yeah, thanks, Gregory. I quite understand why you don't want to, ascribe, or you want to apportion blame to any personality, or you would you will acknowledge actually that there are certain tasks which are given to which is given to every um, person that has come to Earth, which they have to develop as willed by the Creator. When that is not fulfilled, there's going to be a breakdown somewhere, obviously. I would wish you, I don't know if you would acknowledge that or.
When such are not fulfilled, the breakdown is for the person who is directly involved, because it is he or she who has not made use of that which is granted for the fulfillment. So wherever there is a failure, one shouldn't start by looking out. The cause of that failure most probably is likely to be inwards. Therefore, remove that which prevents one for fulfillment. Look within and remove that clog. Otherwise, it will be such forever. Whereas if one is humble enough and sincere enough and looks within, help is made available through the laws of attraction of homogeneity and also through the laws of reciprocity. Things are now brought before you, and with humility one is able to ascertain what the cause must have been, and one should learn the necessary lesson to block it so as not to repeat itself.
Thank you so much, Gregory. We've come to the end of our show, listeners. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. The topic was the ungrateful species, referring to us human beings. And as Gregory's mentioned throughout the show, and we all together recommend to you, listeners, to pick up a copy of the Grail Message, examine it for yourself, and what we are doing here is giving our understanding, but really, as they say, that the real proof of the pudding is in eating it yourself. So this is the only way you can do it. Get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself and eat it or digest it by reading it. So you can go and get a copy from this website if you like, which is www.grailmessage.com. I spell that www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And I'd like to ask my colleagues to say goodbye, starting with Mena. Anything you'd like to say to the listeners?
Yeah, goodbye, listeners, and as been said over and over again, you have to examine the work to make it yours.
Thank you. And Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners?
Wishing the listeners a very beautiful week.
Thank you for that. And dear listeners, this is Saad here in the studio. I wish you all a great week. God bless, and we'll be back again next Tuesday as usual, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with a new topic again. So you're welcome to join us again. All the best. God bless. Take care. Brother Siam's next. Take care now, everyone.